Imagine coming home to your own property, only to discover that strangers are living inside, and that getting them out could become a legal nightmare. That shocking reality is at the center of Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelo's newest television project, and the stories they uncovered were so disturbing that Kelly admitted the experience left her shaking from rage. The couple, who millions of viewers know from Live with Kelly and Mark, have stepped behind the scenes as executive producers of a gripping new 6-part docuseries called Squatters. Get the F*** out of my house star. The series explores real cases involving homeowners who found themselves battling people occupying properties they legally owned. And this isn't simply a story about someone refusing to leave. The series examines how some experienced squatters allegedly exploit legal loopholes and tenant protections, leaving homeowners facing financial losses, emotional trauma, and incredibly complicated legal battles. So why did Kelly and Mark decide to take on such a serious subject? What did they discover while working on the project? And why have the real-life stories affected them so deeply? Let's take a closer look. Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos have built their careers around entertainment, but their production company, Melojo, has also allowed them to explore stories far beyond daytime television. Their latest project takes them into the world of property disputes and the increasingly controversial issue of squatting. Squatters, Get the F*** out of my house began streaming on Hulu on June 4, 2026, with 6 episodes examining different cases across the United States. The title itself tells you exactly how frustrated some of the homeowners featured in the series became. Kelly explained that the title didn't come out of nowhere. According to her, it reflected the language used by homeowners who were desperate to reclaim their properties. That gives viewers an immediate sense of just how emotionally intense these stories are. For many people, owning a home represents years of hard work, savings, and sacrifice. It's supposed to be the place where you feel safest. But the families featured in this series found themselves in situations where that sense of security completely disappeared. The docuseries follows homeowners who discover unwanted occupants in their properties and then face an uphill battle trying to get them removed. According to ABC News Studios, the cases include people who allegedly manipulate legal protections and exploit loopholes to live in homes they don't own. And the situations can become astonishingly complicated. One of the cases highlighted in the series involves a Queens homeowner who was reportedly arrested while attempting to enter her own house. Think about that for a moment. You own the property. You believe you have every right to enter. And yet, you find yourself on the wrong side of a police encounter. That story became one of the major examples of why the issue has generated so much public outrage. The first episode, titled How to Hijack a House, follows that Queens case. According to the series description, the homeowner discovered squatters living in her family home and entered with a news crew. The situation escalated when the occupant pushed into the doorway and called police, ultimately resulting in the homeowner's arrest. It's the kind of story that sounds almost impossible until you hear the details. And that's exactly what makes the series so compelling. The filmmakers aren't simply presenting the concept of squatting as an abstract legal issue. They're showing viewers the human consequences. There's the financial side. There can be legal bills. There can be property damage. There can be lost rental income. There can also be the emotional cost of feeling powerless inside a system that homeowners believe should protect them. For some families, the issue becomes deeply personal. One of the cases highlighted in the series involves a grieving family dealing with an unwanted occupant after the death of their mother. According to ABC News Studios, the family watched a stranger wear their deceased mother's clothes and later faced a $400,000 lawsuit from the squatter while that person was in prison. That story illustrates why Kelly and Mark became so emotionally invested in the project. This isn't just about property. It's about people's memories, families, and sense of security. Another case takes viewers to Malibu, where the series follows a squatter who allegedly embedded herself in the wealthy beach community while exploiting tenant protections and legal loopholes. The homeowner's battle reportedly became financially and emotionally draining. Then there is the New Jersey case, where a homeowner's confrontation eventually involved a SWAT team. That episode is titled The Squatter and the SWAT Team, and it gives viewers an idea of how quickly these disputes can escalate. For Kelly and Mark, seeing these stories unfold wasn't easy. Kelly has explained that she becomes particularly angry when she sees something she considers unjust. That reaction is important because it helps explain why the couple chose to produce this series. They weren't simply looking for another sensational television concept. They were interested in stories where ordinary people found themselves facing situations they never expected. Mark also pointed to what he described as the ability of the squatters featured in the series to find loopholes in the law and use those loopholes to frustrate homeowners. That perspective is central to the series. The goal isn't simply to show that people are living in someone else's property. It's to explore how complicated legal systems can create situations where resolving the problem becomes far more difficult than homeowners might expect. That is also why the subject has generated strong reactions. For homeowners and people who have spent years saving to purchase property, the idea of losing control over their own home is frightening. At the same time, housing and tenant protections exist for important reasons, and property disputes can involve complicated legal questions. That's what makes the subject so controversial. The series puts viewers directly into individual cases, rather than attempting to reduce the entire issue to one simple explanation. Each episode presents another homeowner, another situation, and another battle. The 6 episodes include How to Hijack a House, The Parasite of Malibu, The Dating App Squatter, The Skeleton and the Squatter, Don't Piss Off Patty Peoples, and The Squatter and the SWAT Team. Those titles alone reveal just how different the cases are. One particularly interesting element is that the people affected aren't presented as faceless statistics. The series gives viewers the opportunity to understand what happens when a property dispute becomes part of someone's everyday life. Imagine having to contact lawyers and authorities simply to regain access to your own property. Imagine worrying about what condition your home will be in. Imagine watching months go by while you continue paying expenses for a property you can't properly use. Those are the kinds of pressures that can turn a property dispute into an emotional crisis. And that's where the docuseries differs from the lighter entertainment projects Kelly and Mark are normally associated with. On Live, viewers see their humor, their marriage, and their everyday banter. Here, audiences see a much more serious side of the couple. Their role as executive producers means they are helping bring these stories to a wider audience rather than appearing simply as hosts. For Kelly in particular, the project appears to have made a strong emotional impression. Her comments about being left shaking from rage demonstrate that the stories were not easy for her to watch or produce. And that emotional reaction may actually be part of what makes the series effective. Viewers aren't being asked to look at a complicated legal topic from a distance. They're being asked to imagine themselves in the homeowner's positions. What would you do if someone occupied your house? Who would you call? How long would it take to resolve the situation? And how would you cope if the person inside your property appeared to understand the legal system better than you did? Those questions create the tension at the heart of the series. Of course, it's important to remember that individual cases can involve different laws, jurisdictions, and circumstances. Squatting law isn't identical across the United States, and the legal rights of occupants and property owners can depend heavily on the facts of each case. That's why the stories featured in the documentary are particularly useful for understanding the human side of the issue without assuming every property dispute works the same way. The broader impact of the series could also extend beyond entertainment. By putting these cases in front of a national audience, the documentary may encourage viewers to learn more about their own property laws and the protections available to them. It could also contribute to wider discussions about whether existing laws